Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And on behalf of Robert's family, I wish to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of busy schedules and commitments and joining us in prayer. In just a few moments, we will begin our service, but before we do, I'll ask that we do check all cell phones and text messaging devices, and please make sure they're not off for silent position. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And I've learned I left mine in my car because it goes off. I'm Reverend Rick Beatty. I'm the senior minister at Unity of Royal Oak, which is just about, I think we're 4 miles or 3 miles up the road. It is an honor to be with you today, and it's always tough on families when someone so very young passes. You don't expect it. So if you're a praying person, I'm going to invite you to pray with me. Otherwise, just become still. God, we know you by many different names, different traditions, different forms of worship. But what we know is that you are the love that unites us as people, that bonds us together. So in all of your many names and in all of those traditions that we call sacred and holy, I invite, God, you to take charge of this service, that the meditations of my mind and the words of my mouth might be useful to this family and these friends. Amen. And so it is. We've come here today to celebrate the life of Robert James Nemshick. We've gathered as people have always gathered at the big events, and I'm talking about marriage and birth and death. We come together and we have records of this on cave walls and hieroglyph and petroglyph forms since we started gathering around fire pits. It's part of who we are, to get together, to share. Could be God calling me. We're here to celebrate the life that he lived in our midst. He is now the thread that draws us to this place together. One of the roles that Bob lived, he was a son, a brother, an uncle figure to the ladies. I see you there, dear ones. And a friend, among so many others. We're also here to grieve. We come together to grieve. No one expects to let go of a child or a mother at 51 years old, or a sibling at 51. I'm well past that. And so whenever I bury someone younger than me, I think, oh, because it's natural to think, where am I along this journey? I think that we can grieve by divine design, because I'm one of those guys, if you touch my heart, my eyes work. I can't help it. Nothing I can do to help it. It just comes. But not everybody's like that. We're all different with grieving. Some will come later. Some of it will be the sound of an RC car going down the road fast in a track. Some it'll be a boat, a gunshot, hunting, time in the woods, whatever. It's different for everybody, is my point. So honor your own grieving process and honor the grief of others. There's no right or wrong way, no perfect time. Next weekend, my dad will have been gone from this planet 29 years. I find I still grieve him. It's different. It gets different over time. You notice that we human beings are almost, it seems like we're addicted to the form of things. We would rather get our lives exactly the way we want them and then just nail them down and keep them there. And that never happens, because change is inevitable. It's continuous. In 67 years, I've learned that change is going to come. 2, I don't get to vote. My choices are to lean into it or let it drag me. But it's going to come always. And so to this family and friends, I invite you to lean into this time and be gentle with yourselves and with each other. Certainly we should take stock of our own lives at a funeral service. Where are we along the timeline, along the journey? And we're here to share our stories and our memories. And I heard you do that, as I said, in the office for a couple of minutes, in a way that, and I think that Bob would appreciate this, because he was also a dog lover. My dog, at the moment I was going out to the house today to come here, she needed to go outside and go potty. So there's no stopping the dog. So I called to let him know it was late. Life happens. Have you noticed that? We tell our stories And we remember it. As we do that, we're more deeply connected to the events. I believe that we literally remember a person in our minds. They are there again, always. So as hard as it is, because we're not going to have Bob in physical form anymore, he is with each of you in your hearts. I'm going to share a couple of scriptures, some thoughts about those, a poem. I'll share the factoids, I call them, the stuff about Bob that we're celebrating. I'll give you a chance to share if you might like to. We'll listen to a song, and then we're going to go over to the cemetery in Clinton Township to lay the body to rest there. I just want you to know what's coming. From the Gospel of John, the 14th chapter, verses 1 to 6, we read these words. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Well, our hearts are troubled, all of us. We would rather not be here today. But these words attributed to Jesus say, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. Thomas, we call Thomas the doubter. He was the apostle that was not going to believe until he could put his fingers in the holes in Jesus' hands and thrust his hand into the wound in his side. He was not going to believe it. Any other Thomases here besides me? Chicken? Because I know. We have many traditions. I've studied world religions for 40 years. There's amazing stuff in all of them that's the same. And there are differences. What we don't know, our traditions teach us. Like Bob, I was raised as a Roman Catholic. That was a certain way of thinking and acting and believing. It was a good way, it just wasn't my way. So come about 20, I left that. At some point, Bob also departed. Doesn't mean he didn't have some sense of faith and community, and certainly community is a big one for him, because I think he should have been given a job as a chief community organizer or cheerleader. You know, get the troops rallied. Anyway, Thomas went on and said, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? And Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So as a theologian and a teacher for a long time, the question that begs to be talked about is, what is this way that Jesus the Christ talks about? What is this way? It's many things. But certainly it's the way of love. What we were called to then and now is to love each other. It's a simple message. And I will tell you, and I'm a pastor for a long time, and churches have mucked it up a lot. It's a simple message. Love each other. Love each other. Love each other as I have loved you. It's that easy. It's simple. I want you to think about the person that most annoys you. That one too. Love that one too. The essence, the Spirit of God in Bob has returned to the source of all life. What that looks like, I would not pretend to tell you. I would not pretend to tell you that I know. I know what it looks like for me. I know that there's more to the life than the life of this body. This body, if no one has ever told you, someday you will croak. And I mean it disrespectful, because we get so worked up about it. The body is not intended to last forever. Certainly one would hope more than 51 years. But we don't know. No person in this room is guaranteed tomorrow. We have this moment. What are you doing with this moment? And one of the things that I've noticed about this pandemic, and it's odd to me that we're coming up on 3 years of it, we've gotten disconnected from each other, many of us. We've got used to hanging out in our houses and being more to ourselves and staying more to our small families, our nuclear families. So if you take nothing away from the service today, I hope you take this. If there's someone that's important to you that you have gotten disconnected from for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be unpleasant, it just happens. This is the time. I hope you don't let many days go by without calling that person. And by the way, this is a call. This is not a Facebook post. It's not a text message. It's not a Facebook Messenger message. It's not a cute meme in a text. It's a call that says, hey, you're important to me. I miss you. I'd like to spend some time with you. And then hopefully follow that up with a meal or a cup of coffee or tea or whatever. It doesn't matter. Because we human beings are neurologically hardwired to be with others in community. We can't help it. And when we're not in community, when we're not connected, it hurts our spirits, I believe, at a very deep level. And it's also one of the reasons for the rising amount of mental health issues going on. And in my kind of work, I deal with that every single day, 6 days a week. As I was preparing the service today, I was looking out of my office on a very moderate for February winter morning, a little windy out there. It almost looks like I should go mow my yard. Fall seems far away. I think a lot about fall because it looks like everything is dying. Oh, hello to you, those of you who are watching the webcast. We're glad that you're here as well. It looks like in the fall everything is dying, right? The leaves fall off the trees and the flowers melt down in the flower beds in the back of my house. My neighbor's walnut tree loses all of the black walnuts, and then the squirrels promptly bring them from his yard to my yard. They bury them there all over the place. Then in the spring I get to mow them up because I don't have room for all these trees. So all those things happen because it looks like it's death, but the earth is getting ready for spring. The leaves fall because the sap stops running. If it didn't, the trees would burst open from hydraulic action because liquid that's freezing expands. It would just bust the trees open. And the flowers melt down in the flower beds because they have to live underneath the ground. The roots and the tubers and the bulbs must survive. They have to conserve their energy. So being above the ground is a little bit not needed anymore for a while. So that dies out, and those walnuts are moved. I think it's part of the divine plan. They're moved away from their parent tree because there wouldn't be enough light there for them to grow. My yard is a big open spot. His is like dark. So they move them to my yard. Most of us have experienced this cycle from life into life of the change of the seasons. We know what to expect. None of us has experienced the journey of life into life after our deaths of our bodies. We have lots of stories about near-death experiences, lots of anecdotal evidence, but no one really knows. What I know is there's more. My grandmothers have been gone many years. They still visit me. My father a couple of times a year, in my dreams, in my meditations. There he is, laughing sometimes at me. I ran his company for several years after he was gone, and then it failed. And he came to me maybe just to help me. He said, it almost failed on me 3 times. Don't stress. So if you're open to it, there's more going on than this 3-dimensional world we live in. I also want to share with you a reading from the Old Testament, from the book of Ecclesiastes, and you may have heard this. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant, a time to uproot that which is planted. This is the time for each of us to make peace with and for Bob. Now, I am of the opinion that people don't, including me, it will not happen for me either. Do not become instant saints just because they leave this dimension. They're who they are. And if you had things that you wish you could have said to Bob before he left Earth, you can do it. I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. I do this all the time for me. Write a letter. Sit down. Make it quiet. Put on some favorite music. Could be in his genre of music, which isn't really quiet for me, but whatever makes you think of him. Write the letter that you want to tell him. Tell him all the things you need to. Seal that letter up and put it somewhere safe and important to you. In a book, in your Bible, in the back of an album, under your desktop. wherever. And then at some point when you're thinking of him, sit down with a sheet of paper, write the letter back. You already know what he would say. He said it to you many times. You know what he would say. He would encourage you and try to have some fun and stop sitting around crying. Move along with it. You know what he would say. All of life seems to sing, seems to sing together as a great chorus in harmony with everything else. And we know more about the connection of all things now than ever. We know that the body of the heart and mind produce a huge electromagnetic field. We influence each other energetically. We can measure that in a laboratory or in a hospital now. I was raised, I drove my priest nuts, I think. I would ask him every kind of question, and he would just get exasperated and say, "Can't you just accept what I tell you?" I said, "No, I can't. I need to understand. I need to understand." So I was raised to think that science and religion were different, opposed, two different ways of looking at the world. I don't believe it today. Didn't believe it then, don't believe it now. It's just two ways of trying to figure out the same stuff. Who are we? Why are we here? What's my purpose? What's next? What happens when I leave this place? Just have to have a little bit of faith. If you can't have a little bit of faith, borrow somebody else's. That you'll get through whatever it is. I remember my mother, as she was getting ready to make her transition. She said, I said, "Mom, are you afraid?" She said, "No, I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of what I have to do to get there." I said, "We human beings have been doing that as long as we've been being born. So there's a process and you will go through it like we all did." And that's very much later she was going to. So just ease into it, lean into it, encourage each other. I listen to people talk about life like it's theirs. My life, my job, my career, my college, my house, my mortgage, my cars, my. I call that the life of I, me, and mine. The reality, my friends, is I think that life has us. Life is expressing itself out through each of our lives. It's not the other way around. And don't worry about the baby. I can talk louder than any child on the planet. Trust me. It is okay. That's a happy sound back there. Happy sound. My first assignment as a minister was youth pastor to 305 kids. So I know. Oh. The soul that we knew as Bob has moved into a new experience, a new phase of his eternal journey. Her life did not begin with birth, it is not, and the end is not what we call death. We have come together today to bless him on his way. We see this as a pause and not the end. And although we don't get to choose how long we live, we can choose how we live. We can live with integrity and honor and joy, and we can have some fun. And I know that he encouraged people to have fun. Have fun with life. Tell the people that you love them. It doesn't cost anything. The hugs don't cost anything. Last time I checked, maybe the government will come up with a new tax for that, but not yet. I'm going to ask you a question I've asked at every service I've done for over 17 years. Does anybody here know how to just have fun in life? Never a moment of sorrow or illness or sadness? That would be a good thing to know, don't you think? I could envision having, because if you know the answer, please tell me. Because I'll toss the message I've been working on for Sunday. I'll get up on the roof of our building and I'll get our team out and they'll record me and we'll put it on YouTube. Here are the 7 steps to just have fun in life. I bet you it'd have 1 million views in a day. Because we want to know. We chase stuff. Have you noticed that? We chase bigger and more. We chase more and more. I think it's our favorite drug of choice, more stuff. It used to be my age of getting rid of stuff. It's like, well, I needed all that stuff. I guess I didn't need it because I'm giving it away. Bob gave his gifts to you the best he could. All of you. I think that life is mostly harmonious. My dad used to talk about it like he say to me, I could always tell it was serious when he would smack me and go, boy, he would smack me and said, boy, life is like a bowl of salad. You can't choose what's in your salad. And I'd look at him like I was trying to figure out what he's talking about. He said, maybe you don't like tomatoes. Tough. There's tomatoes there. Maybe you want more tomatoes. Too bad. You get what you got. Good advice. As I've gotten older, I've kind of made some peace with that. It's like, take what is in front of you. Some you like better than others. We decide everything is this good or bad for us. Nobody else decides, we decide. So eat your salad and move along. Have some fun. I think life is mostly harmonious. Mostly sweetness and joy, a little bit of sadness or sorrow. We wrap that up with friends. We make peace with the world. That's what I think each of us, the journey is on. I'll share with you a poem called What is Dying. It was written by Reverend Luther Beecher in the mid-1800s. But I like it. Hope you do. I'm standing on the seashore. The ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. And as I stand and watch her until she hangs like a speck of white cloud, just where the sea and sky come down to meet and mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, there, she's gone. Gone? Gone where? Gone from my sight is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side. And just as able to bear her load of living freight to the place of her destination. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at that moment, when someone says that my side says she's gone, there are other eyes that are watching for her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout. There she comes. This is dying. It's the horizon and just a little further. It's as far as we can see and just a little further. A guy named Bob was born on August the 21st, 1971 in Southfield. 6 weeks later, he was adopted into the home and hearts of Mary Ann and Lawrence Nemshick. And I loved the poem, the reading that he found, and I chased it down too. And it is said that this poem describes what the couple felt and what Bob's later siblings thought of him. The family had been wanting a baby, and it wasn't happening, so they adopted. And then 5 years later, it started to happen. So they were still one family. The poem I love this says this: not flesh of my flesh, nor bone of my bone, but still miraculously my own. Never forget for a single minute, you didn't grow under my heart, but in it. In it. You see, that growing in the heart, that hasn't changed. He's still there in your hearts. Doesn't make it easier, but he's not in physical form anymore. It was written by Fleur Conkling Heliger, and I hope they're Dutch or Danish or something, because it may be Swedish, who knows. On January the 30th of this year, Bob passed away unexpectedly at the age of 51. He'd been in the hospital for 3 weeks after a traffic accident. People thought he was progressing and then gone. We don't know what's going to happen to us. Live while you're alive. Bob is survived by his parents, who I've already mentioned, his sister Laura and her husband Michael Lipinski, his brother David and his fiancée Julie Nemshick. But Bob's family was bigger. It extended beyond the traditional. Once Bob was a friend, he was your family's friend and your friends' friends too. There was no limit. Perhaps it was because, who knows why. Those kinds of people are rare. They're very rare. His dear friend BJ and his wife Pam and their daughters, Allison and Kirsten, they were his girls. He didn't have any kids, so he found some kids. His best friend's kids. He did a lot of stuff with them. I don't have kids either. You've inspired me, by the way, ladies. You inspired me to reach out beyond my own nieces to somebody else's. Whenever you're catching up with Bob, he would always have the story about the girls. Thankfully, God Bob got to be close to BJ and them and the girls because that he got to experience the pride and the sense of belonging. He didn't miss much in their lives. It's a beautiful thing. Another pair of eyes to love you, another pair of arms to love you. I think it's amazing. Bob attended Holy Name in Birmingham a couple of years, then school in Troy, did high school at Bishop Foley, where he graduated. He attended Oakland for a term, but that wasn't for him. He completed a training program in drafting at ITT in Troy, which was later CAD. His mother tells me he was one of those guys who was geeky. Was he geeky with computers? Probably according to her, right? Yeah. He was one of those guys that worked. He worked at the bike shop at 14 in Woodward. I think now it's KLM, but it used to be everything used to be something different. Have you noticed that? He also worked at Bavarian Village's home office in the warehouse. I did do a little research about this company. They had many locations. His job, he worked in the warehouse. His job was to gather stuff up and deliver it to their 14 locations. And he would deliver advertising material and product and whatever they needed. And he had a spectacular fire in one of the company vehicles on the side of the road one day. It all burned up. And that happened to him twice. So can you imagine? He was a fairly young man at that time. Side note, Bavarian was ultimately acquired by Boeing. They have become, I didn't realize that Boeing Highlands was a huge, across the globe, across the country, ski resort company. So it makes sense that they would buy a ski shop. He started in drafting part-time and then worked for GM as a contractor, because everybody does. That's how you get in. The last 10 to 15 years, he worked for Intra Corporation. I had never heard of them. I was in manufacturing 31 years. Big outfit. And I think that what he worked with was measurement systems and gauging and all of that. And they built some amazing stuff, videos on their website. It's an interesting company. I've had a lot of hobbies. I mentioned already he loved racing radio-controlled cars. He liked Mustangs and Jeeps. I saw a few Jeeps in the parking lot that I pulled in. So he drew people to him. He liked boating. He was into guns. He liked music, lots of different kinds. Went to lots of concerts. Was a roadie / part of the team of a band called Threshold back in the day. He was our audio engineer. The guy who helped start that and left is one of his still friends, is here today with us. He loved the green cruise. In Bavarian Village had a spot. Those of us who know Southeastern Michigan, we know what that's like. The coveted spot that you camp out, usually you have to pay for. Great place to party. My church is 1 mile from Woodward, so I know. I can park at my parking place and walk up there. He loved the drink cruise because it was like his birthday weekend. It's like that and his birthday were all together. Big celebration. Made me think of me because every 6 years or so, my birthday is Thanksgiving. As a kid, I thought Thanksgiving was my birthday. It was for me. He probably thought the drink cruise was for him. The whole city celebrates. He liked hunting at the Wiltsey's cabin. Are they here? Where's that cabin? What city?
It's up near Rose City.
Rose City. I know the area well. I like that area too. He liked hockey. He always shared the best videos of hockey fights and fast cars. Why else do we watch hockey but to see people fight? Let's get real. He also loved his dogs. He loved them. He was the best dog dad to Tank and to Blue, and we can be sure, I've been told that Blue was there to greet him. I have no doubt about it. Our animals just go on. You see, we're all energy. The dogs, the people, the planet, animals, all of it, just the movement of energy. We can measure it now. We see our effects. One of the reasons why to one person, dogs are very friendly, and the next person want to chew their head off. It's the energy they hold about it. Dogs are more sensitive, sometimes have more sense. I used to have a 10-pound miniature pincer who had 1,000 pounds of attitude, but he knew who to yip at and who to leave alone. He knew. To say that Bob had many groups that he was connected to and lots of friends is an understatement, a huge understatement. And what that says to me is that he knew how to cultivate relationships, right? It can't just be one way. A whole lot of people want to be your friend. That means they want what you have. They don't want to give something back to you. I was a giver. He was a giver. He understood. We don't get because we get because we give. We don't get something and then give it. We give first. He would give first. Many thoughts, I condensed them. Bob is the most loyal and genuine friend. He was always there when you needed him for a home or a garage, pardon me, improvement project. He was up to pretty much anything. He would help him. Just for the heck of helping. I've noticed this with my volunteers in my church. Volunteers come together and they work hard and they have fun. Now, do they all work so hard on their own stuff by themselves? Probably not. I think it's why we serve with each other, why we do something with other people. It's more fun. And we laugh. He was fun, always laughing, never judgmental and supportive of everybody. A generally good guy. And whoever wrote this sentence, I love this. He enjoyed life, uncluttered with others' perceptions. Uncluttered with others' perceptions. That's a really elegant way of saying basically he didn't give a daggone what other people thought. I think that this is a good way to live. Just be you and let them do them because they're going to do it anyway. Have you noticed that? People are going to do what they're going to do. Might as well not fuss with it. He enjoyed life, uncluttered with others' perceptions, and welcomed everyone for sharing his passions. I asked who I can talk to, what do you want to remember? What do you remember most? Ollie said that he had a sense of humor. He texted funny memes around. I do that too. People tell me to stop. I don't. The family went to Myrtle, I love this one. The family went to Myrtle Beach the year Bob turned 18. He stayed home for whatever reason. Yeah, I know why an 18-year-old wanted to. The family went down to Myrtle Beach. Hurricane Bob visited Myrtle Beach while the family was there. Bob Nemshick did not experience it. I also heard about a time when the family was away, I think skiing. And he had a party which was forbidden to have. But his family said, oh yeah, break out the booze and invite all your friends over, right? So anyway, they got home. Something happened. The trip was shorter. They came home to find the house big disarray, stuff all over. And what saved him? A bee sting. Put him in the hospital. Saved him from his father's wrath. His mother's just grinning. I said, was he a good boy? And she grinned at me. She said, well, I said, yeah, some good, some bad, right? Some tough. He was a pity. I know there are people in this room who know Bob a lot better than I did. It's okay. So this is the time. You have something you want to share. And if one person will, others will. I'll tell you that. I have a lot of experience. All right.
I know Bob likes to went out. Two of the things he loved to do. He was sporting his friends. He came out to see Threshold play. And I met him and BJ that night. They were inseparable. We played a few songs, and I don't think I'd even met Bob yet when he made his first impression on me. We got through the third or fourth song. Nathan said his friends were there. And all of a sudden you hear, "Free bird!" He didn't love it because that's his. Or he didn't say it because that's his favorite song. He said that because he knew that fans detest hearing that request. I remember looking at Nathan. I think I said, "That guy." Yeah, he was that guy. That guy, when you needed a friend, he was there. The more you needed him, the more he was there. A couple of years passed, and Nathan said, I think he'd be a good sound guy. He's got a great ear for music, and he doesn't really know how to, but in a quick study. We thought, okay, well, that meets our standards for sound guy. And so we hired him, and the next time I saw him, I said, so you're a sound guy, huh? He said, yep. I go, did they tell you about the condition? No. Well, I pulled out a official document of our napkin, which I had written. I, Robert Nemshick, do solemnly promise never to yell Freebird while Threshold is playing. When he was about to sign it, he said, we have to add while I'm working. Well, somewhere along the journey, I lost that napkin, and we had a lot of laughs over the years. And but I still have the memory and the spirit, and cherish it. Thank you.
Thank you. I promise I won't come out and pick you. You don't have to come forward. How are you a better person because you knew Bob? What do you take away from his life?
It's kindness.
Kindness. How did that show up?
Everywhere. Inviting you out to any event he's going to. The love of his dog.
You can tell a lot about a person whether they love dogs or cats. They have pets that they love, that love them back. You know, the Dalai Lama said a number of years ago in a lecture that he gave, I think at the United Nations, he said that his religion was kindness. They're pressing him for what did he believe, and he said, my religion is kindness. Can you imagine how the world would be different if we were all just a little bit kinder to one another? I do. I think about it a lot. Anybody else? How are you a better person? What are you taking away from Bob's life? All right, I won't torture you. You can.
Thanks everybody for being here. We really appreciate it. Bob was really special to all of us. My heart's racing right now, just thinking about my brother. I'm very sad about his passing right now. And I know you are too. So, I guess, listening to Rick's, what he was talking about, we had to do it living with it. The number 6 has always been very meaningful to us. So I do think it is important to say we had him. We met him when he was 6 months old, not 6 weeks.
Oh, 6 months.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, okay.
6 months, right?
We had him at 6 weeks.
You said 6 weeks. Okay, you heard 6 months, but see, I wasn't there. So 6. So I was the second. So the second born. Bob was always my brother, my best friend. And really just the most special person when we were living in North. I appreciated that. So again, remember him, but unfortunately, you know, I'm glad you all got access to spend time with our brother. Unfortunately, he passed. Wish we would have had more time with him. I really do. But I understand that this is important to be here. And I'm getting really nervous right now, but it's important for me to be up here right now, just telling everybody how much I appreciate that you're here for him. And I hope and pray that everybody always has good luck for our brothers. So I guess that's it. I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much for being here. And even the people on camera too, who are visiting with us. So that's it. I love you all. And just so you remember that. I think we all love Bob, right? Right? We all love Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's nice to see a lot of people here too. I appreciate that. So.
Laura, you remind me of something that I've often reflected on. Certainly when I was in seminary, it occurred to me a lot. However many people are in this room, each one of us and each person on the web stream has a different experience of God. Each of you and your family have a different experience of Him. Because we connect with others through the lens of who we are, the lens of our lives. And that moves as we get older, it changes. I've changed, you've changed, and I know Bob changed. So none of us could ever know everything about the people closest to us. But we know a bit of it. What do we do now? We live it out. Because none of the things that have been shared, and none of the things I listened to you guys share with me yesterday when we met, cost money. Even with the girls, he was the gift of presence. I know he made your games, basketball games and soccer games and did all those things, but it was the presence, wasn't it? It's just, he was there. What if we just show up for each other? Instead of complaining about each other, or worse, yes, yet, lately we seem to have this attitude of you're the problem, so I'm gonna take you up and I'll be okay. It doesn't work that way. But that is, in my opinion, the problem. Anybody else want to say anything before we listen to a piece of music? I didn't ask you to play.
No, I will not do that. I won't torture everyone. But, we are all here because we're all Bob's family. Whether by blood, by friendship. As we've heard a lot, he touched a lot of people's lives, very close. Very giving of himself. And that's my biggest takeaway from Bob. He wasn't just giving of himself when it was easy or convenient. He was giving of himself regardless of circumstances. If you needed him, or if he felt that you needed him. Two examples in my life. Dan told the story about him running sound for us. The backstory is, me and Bob had hung out a lot, been to concerts. He'd heard me talk about our drummer, Jay. Hopefully he's watching the live stream. I think he's in Florida. Always being in my ear about, man, I just want to sound good. I just want to sound good, man. Talking to Bob at a concert. We were at Comerica Park. I forget what concert it was. But that's when he said, you guys looking for a sound guy? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you interested? Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm interested. I'm like, are you sure? You've heard me bitch about this for a couple of years now. Like, no, I'm in. I'll give it a shot. And he did a great job. It was awesome having him. Expanded his circle of friends immensely from there. And then the other example, Pastor talked about him helping with home improvement projects. that was me, you know. I got a house about a year ago, helped me with stuff inside. Sitting at my table looking out the window, and I saw gutter hanging off my garage. Snapped a picture, sent it to Bob. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? And he came over, started with that. And he's looking at the garage, and he's like, dude, you got some problems. He's like, we need to fix this. I don't know jack about any of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, sure. He knew exactly what he was getting into. And what it was a 3-month job every weekend with me. Burning heat into the chilly fall. We had to redo pretty much the whole damn garage. He was there for it, happy to be there for it. That's just the kind of guy he was. So, if there's something that I can take away from this, and hopefully all of us can take away from this, it's to be as giving of ourselves as Bob was to everyone.
I'll tell this little story. Bob was a super funny guy, extremely witty and humorous. And whenever we talk on the phone, I'm kind of a pig sometimes, and I burp, and then Bob would say, Mo, stop, you're turning me on. And we'd get a good chuckle, and they continue on with our conversation.
I love that. Raw and real. It makes me think of so many things that I could say. Because I think, I've asked people question all the time, they come to my church, or they see me at a funeral or a wedding or wherever. You're a pastor? I say I am. And here's my credential, things on my wall. But you're not like others. I said, maybe not. Here's what I like. Raw and real. So I think that's how life is. What about if we just accepted that with each other and just made fun of it, had fun with it? That's something that, never mind. Anyway, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you, Chair, for sharing yours, because before the pandemic started, we didn't have a sound man. I have a small community of about 120 people. But way beyond my ability to mix sound for a stream and the recording and the house. So we finally hired a person, and it's like a life changer. So, and it's a company, they can send 1 of 3, and I have my favorite. I always try to get him there because I did all that stuff. I'd hop from trying to make sure the stream was running up on the stage and, hi, I'm Reverend Rick, and this is Sunday, right? It's like to an empty room. So treat your sound engineers well. They're well worth it. Okay. I'm going to invite you to listen to the song, the old Simon and Garfunkel song, Sounds of Silence. It's a cover by Disturbed.
I turn my color to cold and down. When my eyes were stared by the flash of neon. It's lit with fire. Touch the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs. And voices never shared. But no one's there. Stand aside. Look silent. Fools saying, are you too loud? Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words and I teach you. Take my arms and I reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops fell. And golden bells of silence. And the table mountain to the young God they lay. Inside my shouting is falling. And the words that it was falling. In the signs and the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, tenement walls, whisper in the sound of
As I was listening to that song this morning a couple of times, took me back to my high school years, and that line, when the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, seems more true to me now than it was then. God is only God, love, whatever you call it, universal intelligence, source energy. Wisdom is only as real as you make it for others. And hopefully others make it real for you. I think that Bob did a really good job of that. The funeral director is going to come now and give us some instructions. I understand that we're going to be going into procession. It's a long way. I want to share with you from my own experience. I've been in 2 funeral processions where someone has not honored the yield to the procession. One T-boned the family's car, and one went between my car and the hearse because I stopped. So pay attention. Don't let the gap get too large, and pay attention to the people that coming up next to you. I know the director probably has more stories, but I've done almost 800 services in my career. That has only been recent. Those 2 incidents happen to be. They scared the living poop right out of me, right? So one delayed the whole burial process for 3 hours, so we got different vehicles and things. So pay attention to the people around you. Don't assume that they're watching you drive defensively. My dad always said that. Thanks for being here, and God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Pastor said, our services here at the funeral home have drawn to a close. And in just a few moments, we begin our preparations to carefully process on to Resurrection Cemetery, where our final interment prayers will be given. Again, to reiterate, please use caution as we do make our way. We do have the right of way by law, but this is unfortunately not always respected. So as you go through intersections, please be mindful. And as you step to your cars, if you're joining us in the processional today, so you do turn on your bright headlights and hazards. And if anyone is not yet part of our procession, please join myself and my colleagues, and we'll make sure that you join us. We'll have flags and safely be on our way. For those of you unable to join us at the cemetery, I wish to invite everyone to a luncheon that's been prepared at the Fern Hill Golf Club, which is located just right by the cemetery. The family will join you at the golf club following our proceedings at Resurrection. Now I wish to give everyone an opportunity to pass by Bob's casket and pay your final respects. In just a moment, Jeanette will dismiss us row by row. I'll ask that you do remain seated until your approach. You may step forward, pay your respects. And to allow his media family an opportunity to say their goodbyes in privacy, I'll ask that you do step onto your cars. Finally, those who've been given the honor of being pallbearers today, in lieu of stepping directly to your cars, I'll ask that you do gather in the hallway and we'll have further instructions for you. Thank you for joining us.